All right, folks. Hey, welcome to the Dev Rev. I'm your host, Charles Max Wood. We are building up a revolution to make developers happy. And this week I'm going to be answering a question. Now, let me pull up the email really quickly. There were actually a couple of questions in here. This was asked by Carlos. I'm not going to give out his name because, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But anyway, he doesn't live in the U.S. He lives in South America, and he says that he's been working for a small company since he was about 18. And about 2 years ago, he moved from one department to software development. And anyway, he's finishing up his degree, and anyway, he's feeling like it's time to quit his job. He says that his personal thoughts are not matching with the corporation's culture anymore, and sometimes he feels like leaving is a better choice. To learn more, to develop personal projects, and so on. But given the economic and political situation in his country, he's afraid that if he leaves his job, he won't be able to find another job. And he also, since he's entry level, he might not have as much demand. Of course, then the next question is how hard is it working as a freelancer, and what kind of platform have you used at the time to get projects to develop? So there are two questions here. One is, do I quit my job? And the other question is, how do I go freelance? And I want to do 2 episodes on this. So I'm going to answer the first question, which is, should I quit my job this time? And then next time, and I'm going to talk a little bit about freelancing, but the next one is, how do I go freelance? Because I had somebody else ask that question, and I want to make sure that I answer both of these questions. So let's talk about quitting your job. A lot of times people hear me talk about the freedom, and that's where people go. I actually had a few people on the Discord channel actually say, hey, I'm loving the content about quitting your job. And that's not really what I'm driving at. What I'm driving at is there's a certain level of freedom that people want. There are things that you're after. There are things that fulfill you. There are things that really make it so that you love and get fired up about your job. And if you get that from your job, don't quit it, right? I mean, if you feel like you're going to get more fulfillment because you'll make more money or, whatever at another job, then fine, right? Go find that other job and then quit the job that you have. But if you're in a good job, I'm not advocating you quit. What I'm advocating instead is that you look for opportunities to make that job better. Now, in this case, Carlos has a situation where what he wants and what he thinks about software doesn't jive with the way that they're working at the company. And so you have a couple of options. You can try and change the situation at the company. And in a couple of cases, I've been surprisingly effective at that, at some of the jobs that I had in the past, both as a contractor and as a full-time developer. And, so I just, hey, let's try this is usually the approach that I take. And I'll talk about that in another episode too, because I really want people to, a lot of times it's easier to make the change where you're at instead of changing your job. But let's say that you can't, right? You can't make the change in your job. You just don't have the pull at the company to make that change happen. So then what? Should you quit your job? Well, again, I think the economy right now is pretty good for software developers. If you have any experience, especially north of a year or two, it gets a lot easier to find a job. Newer people coming in, I hear them complain sometimes about the ability to find a job. I think a lot of that just depends on the market and who they're talking to and how they market themselves. And really, your ability to find another job boils down to how well you sell your skills. Now, if you don't have the skills, it's harder to get hired. But assuming that you have some skills and you can figure out the rest of it, you should be able to get a job if you can convince other people of that. But in this case, Carlos, what I would recommend is that you go out and you create opportunities for people to see what you're capable of. You go out and find opportunities to show people what you're doing. So get on YouTube, start blogging. This is what I did. And as you start making those decisions and you start lining up that content that says, hey, look, I know what I'm doing. I work hard. And you can demonstrate that you'll pick up the parts that you don't know quickly and that you do know what you're doing in at least the general cases. It makes it a whole lot easier for somebody to make the decision to hire you. And then go out and start meeting people. If you want a job locally, go meet people locally. If you want to get a remote job, then go find companies that hire remote people and get to know people that work for those companies. And then what that does for you is it sets you up so that you can start having the conversations that are going to get you hired. And then once you have that next job lined up, then switch. I find that a good job search process, if you're going through the process of getting to know people and working things out so that you're giving and taking and learning and growing with them, that takes 2 to 3 months. Okay, so it's not just a right away thing. Now you might find that you can go to a job board. Some job boards are great, others are junk. But you may go find a job listing week. But generally, the economy really, really has to be snapping, and I just don't know what the job economy looks like where you're at. So, and in a lot of cases, you have to be fairly experienced. And again, it sounds like that's not where you're at. But again, you do those things to stand out, and then you get those jobs. I'm going to throw one other thing at you, and then I'm going to jump off. And that is, I talked to somebody when I was preparing for my book, Get a Coder Job. You can go pick it up at getacoderjob.com. $25. I've got the rough draft done. It's got all the basic information in it. Now I'm fleshing it out with stories and examples and things. But anyway, when I was interviewing for that and I talked to some people, one guy, what he did is he actually had gone to check out a website of a company he was thinking of applying to, and he found JavaScript errors on their page. And so he actually emailed them and told them how to fix the JavaScript errors, and they emailed him back. He didn't ask for a job, anything. He just said, hey, look, you've got these JavaScript errors. Here's how I would fix it. You can do the same thing. You've got these performance problems. Here's how I'd fix it. You just run it through the tool and then, make sure you understand the process. But anyway, they turned around and fixed the problem. And then a week later, they emailed him and had him come in for a job interview. So it doesn't have to be a hard process, but generally you have to do something like that stands out, that sells them on the fact that you can do the job. And that's why I tell people generally not to go through the job boards and things, is because it makes it harder for you to do that. And so what I would do is I would go out to the programming communities, get involved, start talking to people, get a blog or a YouTube video or a podcast or something going so that people can kind of hear and see where you're at. And then when you get out there, then you can talk to people and you can say, hey, look, this is what I can do. And they can figure that out quickly. They can qualify you quickly. You hopefully have some kind of personal relationship, and then you can go from there. So anyway, that's my recommendation. Hope that helps. Yeah, as far as when to leave your job, I guess I talked more about how to leave your job than when to leave your job. So maybe I'll come back to that. But yeah, if anybody wants to hear that, go ahead and submit that. You can email me and just say, hey, I'd like to hear more about when to quit my job, and I'll answer that. And stay tuned, because I've got the next episode I'm going to do is going to be on how to go freelance. So anyway, hope that helps, Carlos. Thanks.